And now, what today I'm going to be talking about in the 20 minutes that I have is a passion project of mine and the community to simplify application development across any single Xamarin and Windows platform today in the mobile space. So if you don't know me, that's me. I'm James Montemagno. I'm a principal program manager here on the Mobile Developer Tools team. I live here in this beautiful, bright, sunshiny city of Seattle, Washington. I took a bus down. It was great. I love it when the conferences are here. I drink all the great coffee across the street at Monorail Espresso, and I build awesome, awesome apps each and every day. I've been a Xamarin developer for nearly 7 years and have shipped more than 70 applications across iOS, Android, and Windows. And one thing that I hate more than anything is writing the same code over and over and over again and 3 times on each platform. And that's what I'm here to solve and show you guys today. Now, you guys can reach out to me anytime. That's me on Twitter, that's my blog, that's my email. It goes directly into my inbox. So if you have any questions at all, you just let me know. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, I have 2 more ways to find out about me. I have an awesome podcast called Merge Conflict. You can steal some expensive stickers up here and some expensive Xamarin stickers. And I also have a show on Channel 9 called The Xamarin Show. You can go to XamarinShow.com. It's a real original title that I came up with myself. So a podcast, video show, it's all awesome. Follow me and listen to me all the time. Let's talk about mobile development. You're all here to learn about Xamarin development and some Windows development. Now, we've been leveraging the shared C# model for a long, long time. This is what I fell in love with, sharing a vast amount of code and the code behind my business logic, models, view models, RESTful service calls, SQL databases, things that are the same that are in the .NET ecosystem. But then we build out a separate iOS, Android, and Windows head, but also access all of the native APIs, all in C#. That's something really important about Xamarin is you have access to every single native API, giving you access to do awesome things in your mobile applications. Now, we have 2 ways of building user interfaces. First is our Xamarin native traditional UI approach. This is what I fell in love with 7 years ago, which is building out iOS storyboards, Android XML files, and XAML for Windows, no matter what platform you're targeting, whether it's Windows UWP, ASP.NET, that's your head, essentially, WPF or WinForms if you have to. So these are your super high fidelity applications, access to every single UI element, everything like that. Now notice we have that shared C# business logic layer, which also comes across in our second approach to UI development that you've probably heard a lot about, which is Xamarin Forms. We abstract common controls and elements in each platform, so buttons, labels, pickers, things that are the same. And you access all of that from shared XAML markup with the full MVVM framework. There's amazing applications, including the Xamarin Evolve conference app that I made last year. I always put it on the slide. But also other companies that are building applications with Xamarin Forms, like Coca-Cola, for instance. Now, this is the same shared C# business logic backend that's there. So your models, view models, RESTful service calls. And you notice that on each slide, we still have a little bit of that green and purple and blue over there for the platform-specific things that you light up, like accessing geolocation and stuff. So this is the approach I fell in love with, and this stuff here is what's so important that makes your application shine. So it's things such as getting access to battery statistics, GPS, lights on the phone, notifications, settings, text-to-speech. Now, what I put up here are things that are the same on each platform. There are some unique things, like iOS has like HealthKit, for instance, and Google Fit, and a few other things that are really unique on each platform that set them apart. But for the most part, iOS, Android, and Windows devices have very similar APIs. Now, with Xamarin, you have access to all of these. So normally what you'd have to do is you'd have to go learn the iOS API for geolocation, you have to learn the Android API for geolocation, and then the Windows API for geolocation. And then you're essentially writing those in each of the platform-specific heads. Which, that's fine, right? Just write a little bit of code. That's great for me because it's all in C#. I never have to write Objective-C or Java or Swift or anything. I stay in C#. We thought, hey, there has to be a better way because all of our developers, what they're really doing is wanting to access these features inside of their shared code. So we said, what if you didn't have to write all of this code? And what if you could access a bulk of the native features from your shared code implementation? For instance, let's say you want to do text-to-speech. Well, I want my API to be speak, and I speak back a string called hello world. That should be my API that I access inside of my shared code. But when it gets called, I don't want it to somehow magically, well, there's actually no way to magically do text-to-speech from .NET on Android. That just doesn't exist because it's an Android text-to-speech API. But when I call this in my shared code, I want it to reach down into the native capabilities on each platform. So that's why we created and worked with the community to build out an amazing set of plugins for Xamarin and Windows. Essentially, we abstract all of the common platform-specific APIs into a common .NET interface that you can access in your shared code. When you go to xamarin.com/plugins, it'll tell you all about the architecture, and then I'll give you a list of them. So let me actually just get into it. And we're going to attempt to pretend that maybe Visual Studio will work today and not crash. Worked at home, not here. So let's see. That's what happens when you update to 15.2 when it tells you to update it. So I go over here. Let's see if I have internet too. There we go. So I go to xamarin.com/plugins. And essentially, this will tell you a little bit about what a plugin is, kind of what I kind of just told you, and some of the different features that you may have access to. Now, what's really cool here is that as you scroll down, we'll give you a list of plugins to browse, which will essentially take you to a hand-created list on GitHub, on my super speedy internet, on my 2 bars of AT&T. There we go. So this GitHub repo is 2 things. This is where the Xamarin team and our component team work on our essential bindings. So when you come in, you'll find things like Facebook and all the different platform-specific third-party SDKs, and they're all open source here. And you'll learn about what we have, like our Google APIs and Xamarin Auth APIs and things like that. Now down below, we see these community-provided open source plugins. So as we're developing our applications, we may want to do things like access the compass, connectivity, cryptography, device information, embedded resources, file storage, geolocation, iBeacons, in-app billing. I wrote that one. That was probably my favorite plugin I've ever written. I was sick and tired of figuring out in-app purchases and all this stuff, so I simplified it. So when you go to the GitHub page there, I go, okay, well, how do I find out what this in-app billing thing is, right? Because I'm getting ready to integrate that into my app. Well, each of these plugins are licensed under MIT, and they're all open source. So when I go to this in-app billing, I kind of scroll down, and we've worked with the community to essentially document everything. So this plugin here supports iOS and Android and Windows 10. And there's a little bit of setup code here, but essentially when I want to make a purchase, this is what's crazy, is inside of my shared code, I just say purchase async. Like that's it. And that handles all of the iOS, Android, and Windows 10 code to access native capabilities for in-app purchase. So this plugin does purchases, one-time, recurring purchases, things like that. Now what's amazing about even this plugin is that if you were to go into the source code, everything is there. So we can see that we have all of these different projects and stuff in here. And if I go into Android and the implementation, what you're going to see is that I wrote all of this code over and over again so you didn't have to, right? This is all in-app billing code. And not only am I accessing the native API, that's a lot of code. I wrote 800 lines of code on just one of the 3 platforms. Now, what's really cool about this is that you saw that it was purchase async, right? iOS and Android, there is no like async awaitifyable stuff. I use our amazingness and awesomeness of C# to asyncify all of these APIs. So when you want to get geolocation, you say get geolocation async, purchase async. So I made it drop dead simple. But there's a lot of other plugins that are super, super cross-platform across all these things. So in-app purchase was iOS, Android, and Windows 10. And I'll say these are open source and community driven. So when I did the in-app purchase, I just did iOS and Android. It was you guys, the community, that brought UWP, and I accepted the pull request within a few days, which was awesome. So let's say you're storing like cross-platform settings. So I'm going to open up the settings plugin to give you a real cool example of all the platforms that you could possibly support. So inside of here, I support iOS, Android, Windows Phone Silverlight, RT, UWP, Mac, and .NET 4.5. Some of my other projects, I even support Mac OS, or I already support Mac OS, but tvOS and Apple Watch. So you can imagine that from one code base, I can access these APIs to store my preferences all in my shared code and access it on all of these different platforms. That's really, really powerful. So let's see if I can not have Visual Studio crash on me. We'll see. It'll be amazing if it doesn't. All right, so this is my image search application. And I have this image search view model. And the idea here is I want to use cognitive services. I'm going to search for some images with Bing Image Search. I want to pull those into an iOS and Android application. And then what I want to do is do some facial recognition when I click on them. So I have some code here. This is all my shared code here. I have some models. I don't think it's the touchscreen, but is it? No, it's not. That'd be cool. I don't know. I just plug it in. That'd be magic if that worked. So I just go in and I create an HTTP client. I get this string asynchronously. I don't know what happened there. I deserialize the string. I get some image results back. So I haven't done anything magical at this point. And you can see here, like every good developer, I try catch and just return false. That's great. That's a bad experience. We don't want that, right? But down here, I do a few other things. So I can analyze this image asynchronously. This is cool. I'm going to go and I pass it an image URL. I can go get the happiness level that's coming down, and then I can return that somewhere. So I have this application in its current form. So I can go in and I can search for like a cute monkey and hit search. This is going to go and use Bing Image Search. It's going to go pull down some images of monkeys. There we go, adorable. And if I tap on an image, it's going to go and analyze it, and it's not going to do anything because we literally don't do anything in this method. That's no good. So let's add some plugins to do a few things. So what I'm going to do here inside my shared code first is I'm going to go into my NuGet packages. And when you search for any of the plugins on that GitHub repo, it's kind of like a hand-curated list. There's a lot of them on NuGet. These are ones that I've tried out and often that I use. You'll go in and you'll search for whatever it is. So if I want to come in and search for this plugin, or this NuGet, well, here it is, right? The XAM plugins right here. It has 358,000 downloads. I trust it because, it's from this person. And, he looks like he commits a lot, and he looks cute. So that's like my stamp of certification for installing a NuGet package. There's no other way. You don't know. So I've installed a few plugins here. I've installed a user dialog to do pop-ups and loading and data entry. Down here, I've also installed the Project Oxford Emotion Engine. It's not really a plugin, it's just a library, but it works cross-platform. I've also installed a geolocator plugin, a media plugin, and I've also accessed this connectivity plugin. So in this instance, I want to do a few things. I want to check, am I online or am I offline? If I'm not online, let me pop up a dialog box. If they didn't enter anything, pop up a dialog box. And then also, I want to make it so I can take a photo of my face. That'd be kind of fun. So let's do that. Now, it's important to know that I've installed these plugins into every single project. If you have a PCL, if you have a Net Standard project, if you have an iOS, Android, because the platform-specific implementation lives there. That's really important. So now what I can do is I can come back over to here. I'm going to go to the top of this result.
I'm going to fix this.
She's going to fix this, and I'm going to keep talking. And this is just like at home. So I'm going to say if, this is the image search. I'm going to say if cross connectivity. So I brought in some namespaces up top, such as plugin.media and plugin.connectivity here. So that's my cross-platform API. I'm inside of my shared code. I'm never going to show a line of iOS or Android code here. I'm going to say current.isConnected. And if I'm not connected, I'm going to say await user dialogs dot instance dot alert async. I'm going to say you are offline. That's a terrible message, but whatever. And I'm going to return false. If something terrible happens down here, let's go ahead and pop up this, fix this dialog here. And also put it, don't do whatever you're doing in Visual Studio. Cancel. Okay, woo. It's been a scary 15.2 update, I swear. All right, so I'm going to say something terrible went wrong. All right, now you also saw down here that I have this button. So when I click on this button, my Android application calls a little bit of code that I wrote earlier too. So I want to do a few things. Well, one, we should probably pop up that dialog box here, and this returns a string result of happiness. That's how I judge my happiness level, is a string result. And that's when I tap on an image. And then down here, this is really cool. I know I only had 20 minutes, so I wrote this code ahead of time. But I want to essentially take a photo. And I want to do it inside of my shared code. So I use the media plugin for Xamarin. It's one of mine. I love it. I say initialize this, so register anything, take photo async. Store it in the sample directory, name it face.jpg, and then give it a medium photo size. This plugin will automatically rotate your image and downsize this image by 50%. Now, if I don't want to use the camera, maybe I want to pick a photo. Well, no problem. Pick a photo async. It's just that simple to access this native functionality. The last thing I do down here is the same thing, is alert async to get the dialog pop-up box. All I'm going to do now is recompile my Android application and launch it again. I've added a few lines on top to check for connectivity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some breakpoints here. So let me go ahead and add a breakpoint here. And I'm going to add a breakpoint for when I'm not connected to the internet. There we go. And what I'll do here is snap this, put that there, put this here, hide that. All right, so first things first, let's search for someone adorable. That's me. I like to think my mom tells me I'm adorable, so. All right, so there's me. So now I can tap on this. Remember when I tapped on stuff, it didn't give me any results. But if I go ahead and tap on this photo, it should be now going off, analyzing this photo, and ideally, I get 100% because I'm always super happy. If I come back down and analyze this photo, I'm actually still really happy. That's good. I look concerned in this photo. Not very happy. So that's pretty cool. Now let's put this device into airplane mode. All right? So now I'm offline, and I tap on search. I hit my breakpoint. Inside of my shared code, the plugin has notified me that I am now offline. All right? Then I'm going to pop up a dialog box telling me that I'm offline. When I come back online here, I'm going to change this up and search for, let's say, Miguel de Icaza, and search again. There's Miguel. Let's see if he's happy. 87% happy. Now we can go on and take a photo. So I'm going to tap on the photo button, launch the camera. There's me. Let's try it out. Take a photo. It's going to go off now. Analyze it. I'm 2.3% happy. We're better than that. We got a minute here. Now I'm 100% happy. All from shared code. I'm accessing connectivity, dialog pop-ups, accessing native features to not only analyze the photo, but also to go off and take a photo or pick a photo. Now the awesome thing here is if Visual Studio doesn't crash on me, is I should be able to come over into my iOS application and go ahead and say build and compile and run. So now inside of this code, what we should be able to do is run our remote iOS simulator for Windows in the last minute that I have after it builds it up. We'll see if it's going to work here. Building, 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 building. Now the nice thing here is even though I only have Android and iOS, I could add a UWP project, I could add other projects, and I could essentially reuse that same exact code. Now the cool thing, a lot of people ask me, well, is this testable? Absolutely. I have a whole blog post on it on Mott's Codes. Every single plugin is an interface, so it's easy to mock out, which is really nice. So no matter if whatever you're doing, you're able to mock that out and go. Now here we go. This is our remote iOS simulator for Windows. So I'm accessing a bunch of native capabilities, and it's talking to my MacBook Adorable right here. No hidden tricks. There we go. Now I am going to be online because if I go offline, then they can't communicate, and that'd be no good. But what I can do inside of here is I'm going to take this photo. I have a few photos because you know I always have photos of Miguel on my device. So I go into the picker, I'm going to pick on this Miguel photo, and just like that, it's going to go off. It's going to allow me to pick a photo and analyze his happiness level, all from the same exact code written inside of my shared project on iOS and Android. That's plugin for Xamarins. You can go to xamarin.com/plugins, learn more about all of this and the amazing things we have at Xamarin, at xamarin.com, and of course the Xamarin Show. And I'm out of time. I'll be around at the booth. Thank you so much.